The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Yesterday, the new Dellasaurus handed Tuxedo its ass. It is now the morning after. The saga continues. This machine has seen better days, but I'm not quite ready to pull the plug on it just yet. I don't know if there's such thing as a period piece with computers like there is with paintings and movies, but this thing is about as early 2010s as it gets. The 1090Ti, still the original processor from 2010. The motherboard is not original because that old Gigabyte piece of junk flaked out, but this one's new, mint, and rock solid with the old overclocks. The speed range on this thing was originally 3.2 to 3.6. I have it set at 3.6 to 4. And, well, if it gets a little unstable, I might bring that down to 3.6 across the board. But either way, this processor, the 1090Ti, actually enjoys a cult following, not unlike the Sandy Bridge. It's just not as popular, not Intel, and not as power efficient. But it still has a little bit of muscle left in it for some of today's games, especially when paired with a proper graphics card, as long as you don't play anything that's too CPU dependent, because we're going way back on the multi-core with this old 6-core here. The interesting part about this is that because I had more experience with Hyper 212 EVOs when putting this motherboard in and applying the heatsink compound, this thing runs hotter by default and is less power efficient than the Skylake. However, it runs cooler because of the third-party cooling, because the heatsink compound is better on this than it is on the Intel, as I had more experience with applying it, pressing this in, not moving it too much, things like that. I may have to replace the heatsink compound in Monolith at some point, but I don't feel like tearing the darn machine apart. Power supply number 2, 80 plus bronze EVGA, mint, because this replaced the one that blew up on me. Well, I'm sure some of you remember that. The case supported 120mm fans, but I hack-jobbed 140mm exhaust fan support via a Modders funnel. Of course, this also meant I have to take the hinge off the door, because this is flush now, so basically you have to screw the door at both top and bottom in order for it to stay closed. And there's a bit of a problem with the metal bends, because it's cold, and it starts brushing up against this, it can make a little bit of noise, but for a hack-job system, I definitely made this late 2000s case sing and dance over the years. So how are we going to proceed with this? Because the new Dellasaurus kicks its ass across the board. Well, I don't think this is going to have any concentrated coolness in terms of power or efficiency anytime soon, because we're still running the original 125-watt Phenom 2. If this thing ever finishes cooking itself, and I partially delidded it when trying to get the stock cooler off all those years ago, and I bent a few pins in the process, so you gotta be super careful to put this into the ZIF sockets nowadays. But if I ever finish killing this processor, it's an AM3 Plus board. It'll take whatever, you know, the most competitive AM3 Plus processor happen to be. Probably an FX series, but this machine is basically going to be what it meant to be an AMD PC gamer in the early 2010s. 8 gigs of RAM, because I got the original RAM to not be a fuss budget about what motherboard it's in, so this thing actually starts now. Woohoo! Might want to replace that with a kit, or replace the stuff in the Dellasaurus with one that's a bit more appropriate to what that machine can actually do. But I'm not going to overclock the motherboard on this thing anytime soon. Processor only. I want to put all the stress on the processor and maybe get something better if it finally finishes cooking itself. Graphics card is also a total disaster when it comes to power and efficiency. GTX 760, circa the early 2010s, the only card I've ever had that required both of these adapters, both of these PCIe extra power thingies. So even the newer ones that are more powerful and more power efficient only have one 6-pin. This had a 6 and an 8. So here's what we're going to do. I have a couple of computer issues around here that I think this thing could help solve, because it's not going to be competitive on speed, and it's not going to be competitive on efficiency. What it can be competitive on, though, is solving one of the outstanding problems I have with the spare parts I have around the house. Case in point, I don't think any words are really necessary here, but the green dot one is from the Dellasaurus, so that one's the new one here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the result of gradually upgrading my way to a 1 terabyte data array to save data on, and not having anything to do with the old drives afterwards. It's also the result of buying laptops and whatnot, taking the drives out and replacing them with SSDs. So the question is now, what's the sequential read maximum on all of these things when they're not fragmented, and which ones should be in which systems to finish using them up and get rid of them when they seize, and maybe replace them with SSDs? There is one thing though, I was talking earlier about solid state 2020, trying to not have any more moving parts in any systems by 2020. That may not be the case. There is something to be said for the mechanical drives, in so much as SSDs require power every so often in order to not lose the data that's on them. They're basically like the big brother of flash media. And this, interestingly enough, is what has kept optical discs viable. Because if you want to talk about something that can sit for a while without losing its data, optical discs are still your only solution. Even magnetic media like this has a couple of years shelf life, and then that's it. And then, of course, SSDs have to get some power every so often to retain the data that's on them. And by every so often, it's like once a year or so. So you don't want a computer to sit too long with an SSD, like years and years at a time. Because with how quickly technology moves nowadays, I'm not sure that's ever going to happen unless something's really neglected. Thank goodness, though, for Windows 10 Cloud install, so you can just redo your system drive with a simple download, if you have another system to receive the download with. Yeah, it's very interesting how this has all turned out. The fun part is, because Tuxedo is neither a primary or a secondary system, it can lurk over here in the project area or somewhere else, or operate with its lid off half the time, and it won't be anything all that bizarre. So one of the things that I have planned is to basically hook these up piecemeal with some extra cables, because this one, unlike the Dellasaurus, this machine actually has a few, and then see what the sequential read is on all of these and decide which drives go where until they seize up between the other remaining systems, the Silver Bullet, this one, and the 2005 system. The first thing to do, of course, is to get Windows 10 going on this SSD again, but here's the twist. This SSD was the A data that used to be in Tuxedo. It may be as simple as just hooking it back up and applying power, not needing to reinstall Windows 10. Because I put the BX in here, and then the BX came out. I never got a chance to reformat this thing, at least I don't think so. Either way, we'll find out soon enough. There's a nerd joke in here somewhere.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Let's try not to blow the breaker. HDMI 3 is up. Yes! Come on, give me a beep. I got a beep. I have Gigabyte. Insist on ultra durable. Question is, does reboot and select proper boot device? Or insert boot media and press a key. Nope, I blanked the drive at some point, assuming I was going to use it for data or something. Time to do this the hard way.
Epic fail.
Fortunately, while I was doing some things earlier today, I had a new ISO download. So we can make a new copy of the Windows install media and have it be actually up to date. Last go around it required one massive mega gig Windows update. I am assuming that won't be the case with this new ISO. And just like that, it's Tuesday, actually. Some stuff went down at the 9 to 5, we'll talk about it some other time. But it was funny, yesterday evening I came home and I actually turned on the wrong computer because this thing is close to where Tuxedo used to be with my old setup before building Monolith. But basically what happened was I came home and I was like, how come the TV still says no signal? It's because I turned on this computer instead of Monolith. And I was like, oh, look, everything's all lit up. Oh, I turned on the wrong computer. Old habits die hard. Old habits die hard. Done. Just finished installing the most recent round of patches. And it's good to see that Tuxedo actually has a future post-Dellasaurus. But there is one more thing to do. What we're going to do is start this thing back up with integrated graphics and slam the crap out of the processor with Prime 95. The power supply caps out at 285 watts. The graphics card that I want to use in this thing caps out at 75 watts. So I want to see how close to 200 watts this system will get if we basically, well, yeah, slam the heck out of it with Prime 95. Let's do that. 20-something watts. Numbers that used to only be a dream for a desktop. Now, it's system slamming time. Small FFTs for maximum heat. Go! 8 of them at once. How high does the watts get? 115. The magic number is 200. How close do you get to 200 in terms of the headroom? Also the 20-80 rule. You're better off and you're most efficient with your power supply between 20% and 80% of load. Or max load, I should say. 119! Okay, let's stop the test. We might have to, yeah, we gotta restart Prime 95 in order to select something else, I guess. So the processor's not even hitting 60 degrees when running full blast. The next one, we gotta close the task. Yep, there we go. Now let's restart Prime 95 from scratch. Next up, maximum power consumption. 3, 2, 1, slim. 101 watts, 117 watts. We're not getting anywhere near 200 watts with just the processor alone. Here we go, 122 watts. And what are we getting up to for temperatures? Get our little, there we go. Still capping out in the 50s for processor temps, and that's with the regular cooling inside this system. Okay, let's can Prime 95. Start it up again from scratch, and let's do the blend. See, we start out in the 20s again. Blend test. Not even, oh wait, just about cracking 100 watts. Not a bad deal. So we cap out around 120 watts. I think we have a graphics card to pick up. Done. After a little bit more measuring around inside the case, I've decided I should probably get one of those little square 1050 Ti's. Okay, I give up. Sorry, you know, I don't care what Tech of Tomorrow thought he heard at some NVIDIA presentation about 1050 Ti's. I just can't break the habit. I'm gonna keep calling them TIs. Hopefully Texas Instruments doesn't throw a fit at myself or NVIDIA or whatever. So yeah, we have a graphics card to order. And as for these two, I don't think they'll be as antagonistic towards each other as one would think. Matter of fact, they kind of look like partners in crime, almost. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, for those of you that were getting all antsy about this experiment, it doesn't matter if the graphics card works or not. I will explain later. For now, though, I think it's time we called it a night and ordered the freaking graphics card for the new Dellasaurus. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.